Hello everyone, Tomasz here from Frames, and today I'm talking with Ari Jaaksi, a photographer whose work I have admired for years, both through his beautifully minimalistic photographs, but also through his thoughtful, quietly addictive YouTube channel. Ari is based in Finland, and what started for him as an accidental dive into film photography has since become a deep personal way of seeing the world. I hope very much you will enjoy this conversation with Ari Jaaksi. Ari, we are here finally. I have been an avid follower of your photography, first of all, but also of your YouTube channel for it's already a couple of years, right? So I'm so excited, so happy to have you here. How are you doing this morning?
I'm equally happy to be here. We've been trying to just get together for a few times, but now finally we made it. So I'm so happy about it.
And you are somewhere up there in the far north, right? Where are you based exactly?
I live in Tampere, Finland, which is sort of like southern middle part of Finland. It's about maybe 350,000, 400,000 people living in this area. It's one of the major cities, but
Okay, nice.
it's kind of in the middle of nowhere, really.
Yeah. Okay. So Finland. So I'm based in Switzerland. The heat wave just is hitting us. We have 33, degrees Celsius. What are the temperatures up there, right?
So listen, I'm worried about this. This is the coldest spring since '87. We got 12 degrees, and I'm a boater. I have boats, and none of them are on the lake because it's been so cold. This has been a miserable spring. It's been so cold and rainy. So I don't know what's up with weather.
12 degrees. Yeah, this doesn't sound that comfortable, but you are used to it, I guess.
I'm used to it. I don't complain.
Listen, we are here to talk about. Yeah, you guessed it, right? Everybody guessed it about photography. Recently, I have this way of starting those conversations, which is a very lazy way, right?
All right.
And so the question, it's not actually a question; it's a prompt. Is tell us about your photography.
Wow, that is broad.
Well, that's the idea.
You know, it's a very personal thing to me, and it's just the way to learn to look at the world and see things, and then asking myself a question that what could I make a photograph out of that? What would it be like? And it started fairly recently for me, so it's all new to me. I'm learning as I go, so it's self-centered, it's personal, I'm just interested in it.
So you say fairly recently. When did you start photographing?
So, I mean, of course, everybody takes snapshots, and I would have a cell phone and all that. But I think it was 2018 when I bought my first camera, that I was more serious. It was a bit of an accident. And then I don't know, just accidentally got interested in it. And prior to that, I would take a picture every now and then, like everybody. But then I wanted to become better. It started to interest me, and then it's getting deeper and deeper.
What do you remember? What it was that you felt like when you started thinking about it seriously? Like this taking this moment, this photograph. Why? Why did it fascinate you? Why did it speak to you? You remember?
Yeah, I remember that vividly because it's not so long time ago. So I accidentally bought a good, an interesting camera. Let's say that way, and then it was a film camera, and I shot 2 rolls of film, and I got them from the development and scanning into my email, and I look at them, and there was this realization that what I have now in this picture, it is what I photographed, but there's something more. I don't think I can explain it more than that, but there was something more that was both personal to me. I took the picture, I was there, I tried to do the best I can, and then on the picture, I saw something that was not only me, but it was also something else. It was very. I couldn't. I still can't explain it, but it was kind of a combination of the world around me and me. What I put into that, and
Now
it's interesting.
beautiful way of putting it, because kind of I feel the same. I can't explain it neither. But you know, I sometimes I'm thinking, you mentioned, you said just now, there was you and there was something more. Sometimes I ask myself, is it more on the photo? Is it less, or is it just different? Right?
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, more here means that more. Yeah, I think different would be a better way to say it, because now on my journey to deeper into photography, I think less is more. And maybe we go through these different phases, but I seem to be in the phase in my work that I want to remove things. I want to focus on essentials. And that is also very interesting, that I think there's a physiological difference. When we look at the world around us, we can focus on a thing. Our eye focuses on a thing, whether that's a moving object or stationary object. And our brain sort of fades everything else away. I think that's a survival thing. If we couldn't focus on a prey or some threat, we wouldn't survive as a species, back in the days.
Yeah.
But then when you take a photograph, it's all there, and I don't know anymore what to focus. So now I try to create photographs where this focusing has been already done by me. So I remove the extra clutter and focus on something. Maybe I go to another direction later, but right now I'm interested in this one thing that is in the photograph. How can I amplify that?
So today, I mean, after those, couple of years, I can imagine exactly you are taking the photos way more consciously today than you were probably, 6 years ago.
True.
What is, when when you're walking around, and especially, as I understand, you shoot predominantly film, right?
I do, yes.
So it has to be a very intentional, moment, when you decide to take the photograph. What would you be able to somehow try to define what it is about the scene or location or the subject matter, like in general? What is it that makes you think, okay, yeah, here, this time?
So now that's a very good question. I I go to places that are potentially interesting. I was recently on this island between Finland and Sweden. I knew there are opportunities to photograph, and then I go out and I need to take my camera and look through the viewfinder. I might look silly on the island or on the city street when I walk around and look at the things through my viewfinder. I can't visualize it without the viewfinder. And then suddenly there's something that interests me. But that's how it typically happens. It's very mechanical, it's very tool and gear oriented, which sometimes worries me, because those who are further in photography, they indicate that I shouldn't be so attached to the gear, but that is an essential part for me to visualize the thing, is to look at it through the viewfinder and thinking about.
Yeah, okay, but just sorry to interrupt, but you just mentioned a minute ago that thinking about this island, you felt that there are opportunities photographic.
Right.
So this was in your head. This is something like you. What would you define as why did you think there were opportunities on this island? What were the opportunities?
Uh, there are places, there are scenes, there are seascapes, landscapes that are free of clutter. There's an open sea. I know it's out there, so there are, half of the island is facing towards the sea. So there's just the horizon, and that I knew that there's a possibility to create photographs that are very minimalistic. There may be a rock, there may be, a bird, but then vast horizon. So those kind of things.
And okay, now you said it was a kind of a coincidence. You started with an analog camera, right? But you really fell in love with this thing because you are really, when I think about you, I think about a guy who knows a lot today about, film, vintage gear. You are playing with those cameras. You are modifying some cameras, right?
Yeah, and I'm building my some of you mean I built an entire SLR camera with the moving mirror and all that from the stuff that I found from the local hardware store. Shutter, lens, everything from that one that I found from the corner store.
So tell me about this. I like gear, but definitely not on this kind of place. I mean, I'm not building cameras, right? I like experimenting with cameras which are there. What is there some technical background? Maybe in your profession or whatever, that made you fascinated to this extent. With I mean, I know one more person personally who builds cameras. That's it. You and this friend of mine. I don't know, like personally. So what is it like, and how does it connect? You're creating such beautiful, sublime, minimalistic photographs, and then you go into this technical stuff. And
Yeah.
do you need both? Is it?
I don't know. I don't think it that way. I just do what I wanna do, and I just it just gives me great pleasure to build something myself and know exactly how it works, and then go and capture a photograph and sort of feel like I know exactly how that happened. I know exactly what happened with it. I'm a software engineer by training, so I've written gazillion of lines of code during my lifetime, and I still do, and and so maybe there's this constructive nature in me, engineering nature that sort of shines through. And um I was those of the viewers or listeners who are software engineers, might know what I'm talking about. But I got into the trade at the time when there was much less things available. So even in the software engineering, you needed to build things from scratch. There were no graphical libraries, there were no file system libraries. You built them from scratch. And that I enjoy tremendously. And I still love simple things that I can understand. And if it's a simple thing, I might be able to build it myself.
Okay, so the cameras you shoot these days are, I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, I just was trying to figure out. It's, you use actually medium format or even large format cameras, right?
Yeah.
Is it those two main kinds of cameras you
Yeah.
use for your,
Yeah.
what is the, and I am really an amateur here in this field. I mean, how do you choose for any kind of project or maybe even individual image? I don't know, between medium or large format camera. Is there a conscious decision or somehow?
It happens. All those decisions are being made before I go even on a photo shoot or on a trip. And I think about it in terms of the camera, film, and developer. And I decide those three things beforehand. Then I just happen to say something, take something. There's no process. I just feel like, hey, I might want to take my Rolleiflex, or I might want to take my Kiev 60. Then I go to this island and I know that in my camera, that is Kiev 60 or whatever that is, I have this particular film and I'm going to use this particular developer, even to the dark room that I will eventually print it like this.
But this initial, decision, this or that camera, it's just an emotional, spontaneous, instinctive kind of.
Very often it
Yes.
does. Unless I have something specific in my mind that I'm, for example, taking a portrait, when I might take a little bit longer lens that I would do if I'm taking, say, landscape pictures. But mostly it's just like, hey, I feel I have a lot of cameras. I have a little too many, but I try to shoot them all, and they give me sort of a different experience each and every time.
And this is fascinating because I have also, I mean, different cameras, but I have also too many of them, right? Let's say.
Yeah, me too.
And then it's like almost like an analysis paralysis. Sometimes, like, oh, which one should I?
Oh, I agree.
Right? But then I also came up, I'm trying to do something like you maybe mentioned, I almost felt like throwing them all in one kind of a bag. and randomly choosing one, because each of them kind of gives you then different results, different feeling on location, different, different everything. So, but and on other days, maybe you can also relate. You can tell me. On other days, let's say I think I have maybe 12 right now, right, of different kind. On other days, I feel like throwing away 11 of them.
Oh, I agree. I got the same.
Do you have those moments?
I have those moments, and sometimes I feel like now I have a wrong camera on me when I'm somewhere. Like I should have taken this other for whatever reason. But that's also interesting then to, okay, I got what I got. Let's make the best out of it. And that's also interesting.
It's also liberating in some way, right?
It is. And what I like about film photography, even though like everybody does the way they want, and I'm not advocating that necessarily to anybody. What I love about it is that it is fairly limited. I mean, you got certain film in your camera and you can't, unless you have a Hasselblad or something, you can't take it out in the middle of the roll. Like you are stuck with that for the entire duration of the film. And then that limits your craft. And I find that liberating and empowering.
Yeah. Are there any, when you are thinking about those projects, bigger or smaller, maybe one day trips, do you feel like, are there any like bigger kind of, how to put it, maybe feelings or concepts or questions behind your photography? Like, is it purely visual, or are there more thoughts, observations, that then kind of translate into your images, at least for you.
That's a good question. My father passed away a few years ago, and he had an Alzheimer's, and I saw him slipping away gradually. So I photographed him a lot. So of course those kind of pictures have I mean, I try to make the visually pleasing images how I saw my father, but there's so much more. It's photography is the minority of my feelings when I look at those pictures. But in almost everything else, it's all about the visual. That's the only thing that matters. And I don't want to advocate anything. I'm not interested in photographing for a good cause. Once again, there's nothing wrong with that, but I'm not interested in, for example, photographing for preservation of the planet. It's a hugely important thing, but I feel like I have nothing to say. So to me, with the exception maybe of my pictures of my father, it's always been just visual.
But are you interested in, even fractionally in, triggering some kind of reaction and emotion in the viewer?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Is it purely you? It's always the same question, right? Because in the end, we are putting you too, right? You are putting the pictures to the public. They are not in your drawer, right? Only. So what's there? What's on this other end?
Yeah, I would be pleased if somebody saw the same visual aspects and felt the same maybe emotion I'm getting from my pictures or something that is meaningful for them. But I would not like to explicitly ask them to think in a certain way. I want to show them, and if they find something, I'm very happy about that. But I don't have a message.
Yeah.
I don't
Okay.
want to have a message in my
Yeah.
photographs.
So listen, I prepared 4 images of yours.
Alrighty then.
Let's look at that. Yeah, and then that's scary. You didn't know which ones they are. But I mean, no, just let's see what you remember, what kind of thoughts or maybe feelings coming up when you see those images. So let me share the screen. Okay, so let's start with this one.
So it was a rainy day. I think it was late fall, maybe in November. And I believe the camera that I used here was a Hasselblad Super Wide. And I was just photographing street photography. And a little bit about technical background here. So I knew that it's going to be really dark. And I had most probably Ilford Delta 3200 in my camera. Now this is relevant. Bear with me for a second. And I pushed that to 12,800. So that is really, and I knew that it is only going to be black and white. And I was looking for compositions where just black and white, no grays, would make some sense. And I saw this sign, and then I just stood there waiting for something to happen. And then this person showed up, came with her umbrella. I don't know who, I don't even remember if that was he or she, you can't tell. But to me, street photography is finding a composition, finding a view that makes sense, and then standing there maybe 2 hours just to wait something to happen. And this is how it happened. And I feel like, to me, it talks about November, and it talks about, there's some pressure in this that I somebody might call it melancholy, but to me it's more like strength.
No, every time I select those few photographs for those conversations, it's the same. I mean, I reacted to it because exactly. So you managed to, evoke some emotions. Yeah, for me it is melancholy. It's also questions. I always talk about questions. Exactly who is this person, where is this location. I don't have to know, but I love it that I, start asking those questions.
Yeah.
Also, so but beautiful one. I love this one. Okay, look. Let's have a look at the second one.
Yeah, I photograph a lot in my hometown. This is the Tampere, my hometown, and they made a few years ago a renovation, maybe 6-7 years ago, renovation when they moved all the cars from the main street, and there are only buses and a tram. So that makes a really interesting perspective, a classical perspective, old buildings and no cars, but maybe a few. So once again, going back to me simplifying my pictures. And here I wanted to simplify and make it more clear what I want you to look at by obscuring the tops of the building. And so here I wanted, it's once again a melancholy picture. I love November. I'm a November guy. And this miserable low light situation, there's hardly any light in November. And I just wanted, there's some loneliness here. It's a lonely picture, it's a melancholy picture. There's just one single person on the street. You might argue that bus is a bit unnecessary in the background, but that also comes with film photography, that I don't have tens of pictures. I have maybe two, and I need to live with them. And then that's what happened.
Yeah.
And technically here, this is so-called freelancing. So I don't have the camera and lens attached, but I'm holding camera in my left hand and lens in my right hand, and they are not attached. And I'm tilting them so that I get this tilt shift effect, which means that it blurs the upper part of the image. And then it's a little bit of a dance, but I'm getting better at it. So
Yeah. Okay. Wait, because I was about to ask you. So how is it? The lens is not attached.
yeah. I
So
think
how does it work?
So this has been taken with the Graflex RP Series B, which is a 4x5. First of all, it's a 4x5 camera, and it's an SLR camera, so the shutter is in the body of the camera. And I just take the lens off and keep it in my hand. So there's a gap, but it is so dark in November that hardly any light gets through this gap.
Oh, I see. So you hold the lens in front of
In front of the camera, as close to the body as I can, but it's not attached, so I can tilt it and shift it, and so I can make really small focus areas.
So I think it's the first time I heard about this kind of technique, really.
Yeah. I like to do it, and then the only challenge is that sometimes you get light leaks into those pictures, but then sometimes you get lucky, and you can only do that with an SLR camera, because you need to be able to view through the lens while you are moving it.
Yeah. No, I also I love this image.
By the way, Thomas, as we can see, even though this is an emotional picture to me, I can't detach the technology and the cameras and things I use because they are so integral part of my work.
No, I mean, I agree absolutely, and also it's not only it's the technical part, but it's also, I mean, at least works like this from for me. I'm sure you have the same. There is some feeling towards the camera as well. Just some kind of emotions we have with this particular,
I agree.
right? And then it's kind of, yeah,
I sometimes say it like it's a bit silly, but the camera is not a tool for me; it's a partner.
beautiful, love it. Yeah, exactly the same. Yeah, feelings I get. The last thing is actually two photos. They are kind of like a duo from one of your books, I guess. I love this set here. So yeah, tell us, where was it? Venice?
No, this is one
Oh,
in my hometown.
oh, okay, I see that.
There's a harbor in my hometown. I mean, I'm talking about the right-hand side picture. And when I go, I need to go under a bridge. There's a bridge, and then I go under it. So here I'm coming out from the town. There's a city skyline in the background, and I'm coming under the bridge. I'm in that position. I'm under the bridge. Then it's just coming through. And yeah, I have this boat. Unfortunately, it's not yet on the water because, as I said, it's been really cold. And here is the I I learned this technique through pinhole cameras that I used on my boat. But this is not a pinhole camera. This is using both of these. I guess up using an ND filter that probably an ND 1000. So it lets only like a 0.1% of light through the lens. So it's really dark. So I can extend the exposure times even in the middle of the day, that it's probably in the ballpark of 30 seconds in both of these pictures.
Okay.
And when I have a tripod on my boat and the boat is moving, and then whatever is in the boat during the 30 seconds, it's stationary relative to the camera and is in focus, but everything else is blurred.
Great idea with this tripod on the boat. Yeah, I love it. And was it like is it from a zine or book?
Yeah, I made this maybe a year and a half ago. I made this scene, really a small number copy of scene. I wanted to learn to deal with print shops, and I learned a lot just doing a zine. I recommend everybody to do a zine or a little booklet because you learn so much about the print shop and how difficult it is to get especially black and white pictures on paper. Which leads to Frames magazine, that I'm constantly impressed the quality of the Frames magazine. Let's talk about that a bit.
Yeah, well, this is for another conversation. Yeah, thanks so much. This is for another. Yeah, I mean,
Printing is so difficult. It is so difficult.
printing is difficult. You're doing it. Are you doing it yourself? Like, I mean, okay, developing the images, but then printing, or you outsource? I mean, you are just creating prints in you.
So of course, I do prints in my darkroom.
Okay.
So that's one sort of set of challenges and interests. But when you create a book, then you deal with print shops, and then that's a different thing. You of course, like at least how I do it, that I use digital tools to create a PDF file that is then sent to the print shop. What you see on the computer screen, that is not what you see on paper, because printing is so different.
Yeah, tell me about it exactly. Yeah, tell me about it. Yeah, it's a complicated process really, and black and white is especially tricky, right?
Especially black. There's this one photographer, Taneli Eskola from Finland, really a grand old man, has published many books. He gave me this way of thinking that I found that was really interesting for me to realize the printing difference. He said that when you got the picture on the screen and you have a black pixel, an area that is black, then it's black and it can't be more black. I mean, it's digitally impossible. But
Yeah.
if you have a black part in your book when you are printing, you can add ink. You can add endlessly ink to that particular spot, and then eventually the ink starts to go all over the place, and that sort of explain to me why printing is so fundamentally different, because then you talk about the physical elements, sort of the physical aspects. And
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk. Show your. This is you have a new book out, right?
I do, yeah.
Yeah. Tell us just a little bit about. This is like a from what I understand. And by the way, we are I think reviewing or have Scott has reviewed the book just now. Beautiful book. It's combination of photography and your diary entries, right?
Yeah, I'm a software engineer, and I run fairly large software teams globally, and then I had a habit to keep a diary, about my work, but my personal life. I lived over 10 years in the US, and that is from those times. I kept the diary. There are ups and downs like you might have in any life, both family. My father was getting sick. I had some business success, some failures, and I never thought that I will read those diaries. It was only for me to write and clear up my mind. It's easier to do when you write things down. And then I found them a few years ago, those old diaries. I was cleaning up some closets and I found them. And then reading them, I had already enough distance to them. So I thought, let me see if my diary entries and then my photographs side by side would make any sense. And first, I didn't know if they make any sense, but then I show them to a few people, and they sort of, based on their comments, they understood what I was up to. And then through a lot of work and help from other people and forth and back, I finally got this out a few months ago. And
Yeah, I love this idea. I also love connecting words with photos, with music. There is one extra request I have at the end of this video. Be ready. Listen, now one last thing. Now it's interesting because I was about to ask you about your YouTube channel. And by the way, I will link, of course, to it, so every one of you make sure. I love your weekly videos. I don't even mention the consistency. I'm so jealous. Like you are just releasing those videos, every week.
I'm an engineer. So I help myself.
But you mentioned now, keeping this diary back then, and you said, what did you say? Cleaning your mind, clearing your mind.
Yeah.
Is your YouTube channel a way to clear your mind weekly in some way?
Oh, it is. It very much is. It was. I'm interested in photography, so on the weekly basis, I either do something or think about it, and then in order to make sense of that, I noticed that I write a few lines down. That may be about. I made a video about the different sizes of prints. And that was on my mind that week. And I just had some thoughts. I was walking my dog or, jogging, whatever. And then I come back and I write down those thoughts. And then I thought that, okay, what if other people might be interested for me to explaining those? And then I thought video may be easier for me than to start to polish my broken English on a written text. And then I started to make them. And they are less and less about gear. They are more and more. I know I would get more followers and listeners and viewers if I would do gear reviews, but that doesn't necessarily interest.
So you have the right followers. That's what counts.
I agree. I've gotten so many new friends through that channel, so that's
Wonderful. Hopefully, you will get a few more. I will definitely. So get the link below. Listen, Ari, has been wonderful. I have one last crazy request, and you can say no, or you can gladly do it for us. You play the piano, right?
I do a bit.
Do you improvise?
I do.
1 minute, please.
Wow.
Whatever comes up to your mind.
Hey.
It will be a debut. It will be the premiere on Frames channel. I am a pianist. I didn't play here. I play the piano, but not jazz.
Okay. So Thomas. So what happened on? This is a bit sad. A few days ago, Brian Wilson passed away. A great musician, great influence to me. Let me play you some Brian Wilson, just a few bars.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. This is great. Wonderful.
Yeah,
Oh, amazing.
yeah, that was he was such a great influence to all who play or listen to music, and one thing that I loved about Brian Wilson was that we think about him as a surf song, high kind of like funny, nice pop tunes. But if you look at his work and get deeper, there's so much melancholy, so deep stuff. And like if I want to bridge to photography once again, being able to show both sides of the life, both the sort of darker colors, but then also the brighter colors.
No, Ari, I have to say, and you mentioned the word melancholy at least 4 times during this conversation. So, you being a software engineer, but I feel very well, I think what's running down there, and there is such a common thread. And I just want to say how much I appreciate you being in this photographic community. It's a blessing to have your photos, music, your thoughts. Wonderful. And thank you so much, for making the time today.
Thank you, Thomas. It was nice. Finally, we managed to get together. So
Absolutely, yeah. Staying in touch. All the links to Ari's work below. Make sure really to visit his website, look at his books. Wonderful stuff. Ari, we stay in touch. Thank you so much. Talk
thank you,
soon.
Thomas. Later.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye.